We created Free because someone had to stand for the addicts and loved ones of addicts who were suffering in silence, for the spiritual refugees who didn't have a place of belonging. A traditional church model doesn't create space for the conversations we know have to be had. Free is standing with those who are barely hanging on, who are longing for something new. Free is bridging the gap between spirituality and recovery. In this place, God meets us exactly where we are. This is what we stand for.
Good evening, everybody. Good evening. Welcome to Free Recovery Community. As the video said, Free is a community for addicts, loved ones of addicts, and spiritual refugees. We meet here every Saturday night to explore and be curious and approach the relationship between God and our own lives in a way that's open and leaves room for discussion and conversation. I want to make a special shout out to those joining us tonight online, especially those that are joining us from the LSSI Treatment Center. I had the opportunity to go see them yesterday. Great group of people out there. I'm really excited to see the direction that their recovery journey takes. So just a quick rundown. We're not a 12-step program, so we won't raise hands for sponsors or anything like that, but we do assume that most of the people here are people who do work some sort of, or have been affected by addiction in some way. That includes addicts and loved ones of addicts. And most of the people in the room do work some sort of recovery program. So how the evening's going to go down for anyone that's new with us for the first time, we'll just do a little welcome, maybe cover some things that are going on in the community, followed by a time for celebrations. That's a time for the community to come together and really recognize what's good and what's going on in each other's lives. You never know if the person 3 down from you really needs to hear what's going good. You never know what that person needs to say. And then we'll go into a quick recovery-centered message. It's about 10, 12 minutes long. We'll take a minute to pause and just kind of meditate to music before we have a guest storyteller. Our guest storyteller tonight is Louise Luna. So Louise has actually been the one that's been conducting the LSSI stuff, but someone just got promoted and doesn't work Saturday nights anymore, not to ruin your celebration. So we finally get to have Louise sit in the chairs with us. Then we'll go into heartaches, which are those things that are maybe just a little too heavy to carry out of the room on your own. Give everyone a chance to be there and support for you, and then we'll pray and head out. Yeah.
All right. I'm Matt. Hello, everybody.
Hey, Matt.
Helping with the announcement. So there's one thing at Free we don't do, which is shame. So every week we like to say it together. So on the count of 3, if we could say we don't do shame. 1, 2, 3.
We don't do shame. So a couple quick things before we get going. The first one, we'd love a chance to connect with you. I know a few people already filled out the Connect cards. Andy has Connect cards. So if you're new, or if maybe you've came a few times and haven't had a chance to connect with us deeper, we'll send you just one email a week that kind of gives a preview of what we're talking about this week or different things that are going on in our community. If you fill out the phone number section, you'll probably get a text from me asking if you want to do coffee. For the record, that is not me asking anyone on a date. That is just me wanting to hear a little bit more about your story and answer any questions that you might have about Free. And then also you can find Andy afterwards, and he will give you a piece of merchandise. So you can get some merchandise from Andy. So yeah, that's the Connect process.
Also, we have social media. So if you don't follow us already, we're on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. So please look us up and follow us so you can stay connected with everything going on.
Yeah. What's next? Volunteering. You can get that one. He's a volunteer.
I'm
pro.
a volunteer, and it's great. It's a great way to connect with everybody. I've built a lot of friendships and relationships in this room, and I hope to meet more of you. But if you want to help with teardown and setup, it's a great way to meet people and hang out. So please let us know.
Yeah. And I think we have one more announcement, and it's that Recovery Yoga is back. So it's at a new time. I think it's actually, Victor, it's at 2, not 1, right?
It's going to be at 1.
It's going to be at 1 going forward. Okay, so moving forward, it's going to be Saturdays at 1. Which is a really great way to, I think sometimes recovery can be a lot in our head and sometimes it needs to be in our body. Yoga is one of the better meditative practices, and I know for a lot of people, and this is actually not ours, this is through the Phoenix. We just support them in partnership with Space and all of that. And it's totally free. If you're someone who's an addict or a loved one of addict. If you're in the room right now, you're a friend of an addict, because turn to the person next to you and make friends with them. It's free for you, right? And so you can scan that, or you can download is it called New Form?
Yes.
The New Form app. And they have a bunch of other really cool stuff going on there with the Phoenix as well. I know certain people in this room enjoy rock climbing and really use it as a way, as a good part of like a holistic recovery. So, yeah. I think that's everything. Let's see, is there another one?
All right.
Okay, perfect. And now it is time for celebrations, as I mentioned earlier. So Matt, just raise your hand. Matt will carry around the microphone. Celebrations, if you're used to a 12-step meeting, I like to think of a 12-step share as the whole email. Celebrations are the subject line. So just let us know what's going on in your life.
I have reached my 98 days today.
Woo!
Hey everybody, I'm Greg. I celebrated with my family in New Jersey my 17 years of sobriety on the 5th.
And pardon me if I speak out of line. I've heard Greg's story, and anyone in here with 17 minutes, it's maybe probably not more extreme than Greg. So 17 years is a big deal.
Hello, everybody. My name is Rafael, and I'm celebrating today 8 days of sobriety.
Woo!
Good morning. My name is Freddie, and I'm celebrating 13 months.
Woo!
Congratulations. Saw your hand, Joe.
Hi, I'm Chopa, and I'm celebrating 6 and 7 months. 6 months off of Adderall and 7 months off of alcohol.
Any other celebrations tonight? Because we do have some celebrations coming in from LSSI Treatment Center as well. Let me pull those up real quick. I probably should have pulled them up before, but okay, I have a microphone. I don't know why I pulled for that. Okay, so Jordan Green is celebrating 10 days sober and finding a spiritual awakening, getting to find my higher power. So. That's a big one. Continue to grow with that higher power too. Levante is, I'm celebrating 30 days sober on the 25th. Yeah. Okay, and Justin Burke says, I'd like to celebrate that I have 17 days sober. My name is Justin Burke, and I'm a heroin addict. Miguel will celebrate 1 year sober from heroin and 1 month completely sober from everything. Okay, this one's exceptionally cute just because of the names of the relatives. Happy birthday to my brother Mike and my nephew Lil Michael. Happy 6th birthday, Uncle Bubba. We'll see you soon. Love you all, family, and for LSSI. And then it says FAMOSODAAT, love from Michael O. Or that's from, yeah. So that's Brian M. So celebrate it with Brian M. And Michael O. is celebrating 30 days tomorrow. So let's hear it. You know, and for anyone who's made that hard choice to go into treatment or be involved in treatment, or maybe just to come back when shit was really hard, like, I think that's a big celebration for everyone who's even there. So awesome. Any more celebrations from the room? Okay. Should be a video coming up here in a second. Yeah. Oh. Maybe the video didn't load. The video didn't load last week either. So there's a really fancy video we stole from Denver, and it shows this guy walking through the woods, and he's on a journey of spirituality. And it's quite good. But it didn't play last week either, but I guess it only plays on my computer. So last week, we kind of started a new series, so we talk about things in kind of groups, about finding the purpose and direction as we embark or engage on the new sober life. And last week we talked about how pain is often the great motivator, that something needs to change. Just like pain in our body can be the same with pain within our soul or within our lives. When the old life no longer fits anymore, sometimes that pain is what motivates us to find something that did. And today we're going to talk about how to listen to figure out maybe what that next direction or what that next opportunity might look like. So for my first few years in sobriety, I had this really good friend named Addie. So me and Addie, I've told you all about my early sobriety. I lived in the trailer park, worked at the call center, drove the Ford Bronco, smoked a bunch of cigarettes, right? Me and my friend Addie were really well known for sitting on the stoop of my trailer during live PD commercial breaks and chain smoking cigarettes. So she's now an elementary school music teacher and mother of two. Because sobriety can take us in quite the direction. But me and my friend Addie, we were about 3 months sober. We got sober within a few weeks of each other. So she had just started working the third step. So the third step tells us that we turn our will and our lives over to the care of our higher powers or God as we understand God. And a big topic or something that's talked about a lot on the third step is God's will and trusting God's will and following God's will. And God's will can be this like super complex thing that's super simple in reality, but is also super easy to misunderstand. And so me and Addie were at this meeting, and Addie was in full-scale crisis mode. She was like, what in the world is God's will for me? And she was trying to figure it out because like many of us, we just want to do these things to the best of our ability. So she's at this meeting, and she's saying, but how do I know what God's will is for me, or what does God's will even mean? And she was stressed. She was like visibly anxious, and she was spiraling a little bit, trying to figure out God's will. Like God's will was some map that was reserved for God, and her job was to walk the map perfectly without seeing it. And it was all in good conscience, right? She wanted to live the life that was the best for her. She was trying to figure out what is God's will for my life. Like she needed to get it exactly right. Like there was one correct answer, one perfect path, and if she missed it, everything in her life would fall apart. She was hoping for some internal GPS that told her when to turn and where, like God's will was a map that she had to follow, but she just couldn't see it. And I think most of us have been there at some way or another. She kept on just saying, I just don't know what God wants me to do. Now this is the problem. Unless you're the founder of Mormonism, Joseph Smith, God typically does not show up with golden tablets and spell everything out for you. How was that? Was that an accurate depiction? Yes. Good enough. Okay. That's just not how most of us experience God. But Addie didn't quite know that yet. So we were in this meeting, and she was finally at a breaking point. She had a full-on meltdown, crying and overwhelmed and saying, I wish God would just tell me what God's will for me is. And the next person that shared was one of those good, crusty old-timers. And all he said, trust me, if you're outside of God's will, you're going to know it. Now, at first, that doesn't sound very comforting, does it? But the more we talked about it and the more I thought about it, the more I realized that God rarely speaks to us in a loud voice. Often we have to work really hard to listen, and most of the time, if we do that, it's going to turn out okay. We really just have to listen. That's actually how a lot of discernment works. I remember whenever I was deciding if I wanted to be a pastor or not, I was meeting with a pastor friend of mine I'm like, is this specific job what's right for me? Should I apply for the young adults pastor job at the Gathering? And anyone knowing that name, I probably wasn't the right fit for it. But anyways, I was trying to figure it out, and he was like, maybe God's will is more roomy than that. Maybe God's will has more paths than that. But really, what we have to do is we have to try to listen to what God has in store for us and follow that path, and maybe it's just the next step. So there's this term that often sounds pretty churchy, but is kind of perfect for the process of trying to figure out what road to take or where to go as we're searching for the purpose that we have in our lives. That term is discernment. Anyone ever heard of discernment before? And discernment is really just a spiritual term for figuring shit out. Discerning is just praying and trying your best to listen to God before we take the next step. Because as addicts or alcoholics, or maybe those who have addicts and alcoholics in our lives, we're not very good at pausing and figuring out what direction we should take. We're a little bit more good. We're a little bit better at going full-fledged into things and then trying to figure out why it's not working for us. Because as I mentioned earlier, last week, we talked about a lot of the time when we're off track, we feel it. And it's not a punishment but it's a dissidence. It's a friction. It's a sign that we need to listen more than act. And hopefully we'll eventually find a deep sense of maybe this is it. So today we're talking about discernment. But not just what it is. I want to talk about how we actually do it. Because at some point, all of us will end up asking those big questions, like, what's next? Do I stay? Do I go? Is this right? Am I forcing something that isn't meant to be? And ultimately, discernment is not about getting the perfect answer. Discernment's often about asking the right questions and learning how to listen. Because a lot of times, as my old pastor told me, there's many paths that lead to fulfillment and following whatever God's will might be. In spirituality, figuring stuff out is more about asking that question and being open to the answers that present themselves and less about finding the perfect solution. And one of those primary ways we listen is through prayer. Prayer is something that's big in almost any spiritual path, almost any spiritual tradition, just slowing down and breathing and listening and sometimes maybe speaking with intention. Now, when I say prayer, I don't mean saying the right words or sounding spiritual. I mean something much simpler. Prayer is an act of turning over. It's saying, I don't have control of this and I don't have to figure out everything right now, but I'm willing to be guided. In Alcoholics Anonymous, the big book actually says that the only people that doubt prayer are the people who don't do it enough. Or as my friend Annie once told me, trying to pray is actually praying. You don't have to master the art of prayer. But here's where a lot of us get stuck. We pray and then we expect a clear answer. Maybe a voice or a sign or something obvious, but I don't know many people that could hear the audible voice of God and stay sane afterwards. And when that doesn't happen, maybe we don't hear the voice, we don't hear the exact explicit thing, we assume that God must not be speaking. But what if the issue isn't that God's not speaking? What if it's that we don't always recognize the ways in which God speaks to us? A few years ago, I was in a season where I knew something had to change, but I wasn't quite sure where to go with it. I stumbled across this book called Whisper by Mark Batterson, and I literally referred this book to so many people that one of my good friends, Grace, used to always say, "Oh, are you talking about Whisper?" She would always make fun of it. It talks through the ways that we can hear the voice of God, or maybe just a little spiritual inspiration when we're not there yet. Batterson says that the voice of God shows up in many different ways. He cross-references a bunch of sacred texts, but he anchors it all in the story of a prophet named Elijah. It's in a book in the Hebrew scripture that's called 1 Kings. So there's a moment in 1 Kings in chapter 19 where Elijah's waiting for God to show up. The prophet has really been through it. Okay, so he tried to go and tell his community a bunch of stuff that would have really impacted and changed them, even if it wasn't in the most tactical or suave way. And he's basically ran out of town by his whole community. And he's hiding out in this cave, waiting for God to tell him what to do next. So first, there's this wind, and he doesn't hear anything. And then there's this massive earthquake, and he doesn't hear anything. And God, finally, when God is in any of it, there's a silence. And that's where this still small voice speaks to him. And the whole argument behind the book Whisper is that sometimes we have to lean into God to hear the voice of God. Sometimes we have to lean in to hear what direction might be in store for us. Because that also means that it's sometimes really easy to miss. Not because it's not there, but because it's a lot quieter than we expected. So how do we do this? How do we lean into God to hear that still small voice? That whisper that helps us figure out what to do next when we maybe just feel a little lost. Well, Whisper actually gives us 5 ways to listen for God. The first way that it highlights the importance of listening to God through the use of sacred texts. These sacred texts could be the Bible, they could be recovery literature, or for some people they could be tarot cards, right? There's sacred texts all over the world. They're often something we've read before that suddenly feels alive when taken in the context of our current experience. Anyone ever relapsed and then read the big book again with their sponsor and had new things that they could relate to? And this is why these spiritual tools have been essential to spirituality, in some cases for decades, and in other cases for centuries. Because these sacred texts often come alive when we read them with our own experiences. The second way that Batterson highlights the ways that God speaks to us is through people. A conversation that might hit deeper than we've experienced. I think a lot about, I remember this couple, and they weren't a couple originally, but then they relapsed and went out together, and then they came back and they were engaged because they said God had told them to get married. If they would have relied on people as the voice of God, they might have learned that maybe it wasn't God speaking to them, right? A lot of times wisdom comes from other people in the room, people who've been through it, people who've guided it, and sometimes the voice of God sounds like the voice of that person that we really, really trust. That person that we think to call when we're overwhelmed. That person that we never even knew had all that wisdom in them. I remember one time I called my mom and I was super overwhelmed, and she's like, "You've been through harder things than that before, you'll be through that again." And in that moment, my mom's voice was the voice of God. Don't tell her I said that. And sometimes God speaks through us through what Batterson calls promptings. These promptings are maybe a nudge we can't quite explain. Anyone had something like that? Just a feeling to go and do something? But sometimes we can't quite shake them either. So that nudge that tells you to go do some fuck shit, maybe that's not the right one. But those nudges that just kind of stay inside of us and keep nagging away at us. I know a lot of people going back to school is just this nudge, this idea that maybe doesn't make sense, but they can't quite shake either. Sometimes we can call this desires. Because there is such thing as when we want something and that's still being within God's will. Kids are a great example of that. I definitely don't want kids. So if anyone in the room wants kids, then that's probably a sacred desire, because dealing with that is a lot of work, right? Sometimes that nudging from God, that unexplainable thing that our heart seeks, is the way that God is actually speaking to us the whole time. Another way that Batterson highlights that God can speak to us is through circumstances. Doors opening and doors closing is the example that he gives. Sometimes paths just aren't for us. Sometimes when a door closes in our face, that means we need to keep walking down the hall to see which door is open. Maybe that job we thought we really wanted that didn't really want us was actually God just telling us that it wasn't meant to be for us. Maybe that's the spirit of the universe just guiding us on to something deeper. And if we would have taken that first opportunity, we would have never been there for the one that really mattered. Sometimes it shows up through an unexpected door opening. There's something happening at Free right now that a lot of people know about, but Free's getting gifted a house. There's a house being gifted to Free. Free never really had it in our mind to get into the business of helping people with supportive housing. But maybe that gift of a house to Free is our way of showing up for people because we see the need that so many people have in finding housing in sobriety. Maybe a housing that doesn't require a full case management load or doesn't require a bunch of other stuff. But there's so many people in our community, there's so many people we know and love that maybe graduated from sober living and their record hasn't caught up with the person you see in front of them and they need a place to live. So maybe through the gift of a house to Free, we can discern, figure out if that's the direction that God wants us to go in the way we support our community. But my favorite way that God can speak to me is the fifth and final way that Battersman highlights, and that is through peace. Sometimes God speaks to us through peace. Have you ever made a decision that once you finally made it, you just felt so much more at ease? That hard decision that you're battling with or challenging through, and then all of a sudden it happens and you just feel better. Justin actually had a friend that was battling out jobs, like he was getting so many job opportunities. I know that's just such a hard thing to go through, but to him it was very real, right? One job paid a lot of money, but the work environment didn't feel right. One job needed him to give their acceptance a lot earlier. And then another job, which was kind of the Goldilocks option between the two, when they gave him the job offer, he just felt relief. And maybe that's how God was telling him that work environment at that really high-paying place wasn't for him. God can speak to us through peace, and that's my favorite way because honestly, all I want in sobriety is a little bit of gosh darn peace. So all this means is that prayer isn't always about talking, it's often about listening. Because how do we hear these things? How do we feel peace in a decision? How do we listen to what people are saying or evaluate opportunities? It's through turning things over to a power greater than ourselves. It's about paying attention. It's about slowing down enough to notice maybe what's already happening around us. Because discernment is rarely one loud answer. It's usually a pattern. It's usually that something that becomes clearer over time when we stay engaged. So when you pray, it's not just, God, tell me what to do. It's, God, help me notice what is true. So a few years ago, I became so obsessed with this book because it worked. Opportunities arose, and it helped me find peace when opportunities went away. People gave me support, and that whisper became a guiding light towards where I saw God nudging me to go in my life. There wasn't a loud, booming voice telling me to pivot. And what I learned instead from that old timer or from that moment was something much simpler. If you're off track, you'll start to feel it. Not all at once, not always dramatically, but over time. As maybe tension or disconnection, or as a sense that maybe just this isn't it. And if that's true, then maybe discernment isn't about finding the perfect path. Maybe it's about staying awake to see where that perfect path is. Paying attention through prayer, not to control the outcome, but to release it. Through people who can tell you the truth when you can't see it clearly, or maybe who show up when you really need someone. Maybe it's just through doing the work in front of us instead of waiting for perfect clarity when things aren't quite ready yet. And yes, through faith when nothing else feels super obvious. Because most of the time we don't get a full answer, we'll just get the next step. So as we listen to some Billie Eilish from the Barbie movie, I challenge you not to think about what big dramatic change might be needed to find purpose, but instead ask what whispers we might need to listen to. Writing the message, that song just came to my mind. So now it's time for our guest storyteller segment. Tonight's guest storyteller is one of my first friends in Chicago. I met him at a barbecue, and I was like, "Oh, I'm driving the church van," and he was like, "Why are you driving a church van?" He didn't believe me because my car got the catalytic, blah, whatever. We can talk about that after. But Luis is someone who's been part of Free since whenever it was just an idea, before it was ever anything material. And then he went and he was working most weekends, and he recently had a job switch, and so he can be here. So I'm excited for everyone to meet Luis. So let's welcome up Luis.
Oh, there's no bright lights here.
What?
There's no bright lights.
Oh yeah, Luis did. He was the guest storyteller in Denver last week. And Denver's first service has like 200 people at it, and the second one has like 50. And so needless to say, their production's a little different, and so they just have these blinding lights. You can't see anyone. I kind of like the conversational,
this,
yeah. So first of all, I imagine a lot of people in the room already know you, but for those that don't, just tell us a quick little bit about yourself and your recovery journey and all that.
All right, so my name is Luis. My sober date is January 17th, 2024. I am I'm a meth addict.
We can tell.
I was raised in Indiana, and I moved here right after rehab. And yeah, I've just been living here for like my whole recovery. Chicago's been the place where I've really found myself. I've met a lot of great people. Yeah, I think that's it.
Oh,
Yeah.
perfect. Nice. Tell us a little bit about what your recovery looks like, right?
Okay. So my recovery, so I work in an NA program primarily. I have a sponsor, I work steps, I go to meetings. My recovery for me has been very much about taking suggestions from other people, especially like early on in recovery. I don't think I would be here if I hadn't listened to like my counselor in rehab that thought I should come to Chicago for recovery. I don't think I'd be here if I didn't listen to my sponsor or if I didn't listen to the people in my life. So my recovery to me is very dependent on connection and other people and my higher power. That's how I work my recovery.
Awesome. Yeah. Your sponsor like made you take service commitments from
Oh,
the
yeah.
start, and
Yeah.
you were taking meetings into treatment centers, and he did not give you the easy path to start.
My sponsor's requirements are that I always have like a service commitment, and that I can't say no if somebody asks me to speak. So Seth asked me to speak, I have to be here. When he asked me to speak in Denver, I flew to Denver and spoke.
He was flying to Denver anyways, okay?
But yeah, like my recovery, I guess, has also been a lot about service work and helping others, and that's kind of translated into what I do for a living. I am a substance use counselor at LSSI. I started that because I was doing H&I with LSSI for about a year, and throughout that year, I just like really found that I enjoyed being in this room of people that were in early recovery. And since I was going like weekly, I got to see people like, you know, like at the beginning of their stay there. And then I really enjoyed seeing like kind of like the life return to them towards the end of their stay. So that kind of motivated me to go back to school and to get into this field. And now that's what I do for a living. I get to spend a lot of time with people at LSSI. So I'm really happy to do it.
Yeah. I just heard like almost all of those 5 points I hit a minute ago, you just covered, right? Like I listened to other people, I was involved in community and all that. So you mentioned something a second ago about your higher power. And we all, although we all kind of have our own understandings, or we all kind of come at, whenever I was meeting, I used to use a higher power example at LSSI on Friday?
I did not. My clients did not tell me that.
Oh, well, you know, so the steps say God as we understand God, and I have this whole thing. You'll probably hear me talk about it later. Everyone thinks they need to define God or figure God out, and I was like, no, we just understand God.
Yeah.
Like, we don't get to define God. As we define God, then we're kind of playing God, right, if we determine exactly what God was. And so I said, y'all know Luis as your counselor. I know Luis as my friend. It doesn't change who Luis is, and it doesn't make either thing more. So I use that as example. So tell us a little bit more about your understanding, or how you understand your higher power at this stage in recovery, because it's always evolving, right?
Yeah, so my higher power for me, like, it's always been evolving. So when I got into recovery, I really had a problem with the word God in the third step and like throughout the steps. And that was just like from coming from a not very religious family, but like I went to youth group, and I have a couple uncles that are pastors, and just hearing that like I wasn't accepted as a gay person in the church. So I was kind of put off by church and by religion. So when I came into recovery, that kind of put me off. And what I've learned is that my higher power doesn't have to be exactly what I grew up knowing God to be, right? Because I know my higher power is loving, caring, and wants the best for me. And that kind of just like happened throughout my recovery by, I guess, I'm a pretty evidence-based person. And I figured that if I listen to my higher power, and for me, my higher power is not loud. It kind of like, my addiction was very loud. Like my addict brain was very loud. And I've learned that my higher power is quiet. You know, like I listen to those quiet moments when things feel right, when I feel at peace, when the next choice I make isn't going to lead me to chaos. And through that evidence, I've learned that my higher power is loving. And if I listen to my higher power, then like my life turns out or unfolds in ways I didn't imagine possible. So,
Yeah, when you first got sober, did you think you'd end up as a substance use counselor?
no, no, no.
So tell me, we talked about discernment and kind of figuring out the path we're going down, right? Like what the next step needs to be. Like we don't always have to have a master plan.
Yeah.
And if people are early in sobriety, the next step might just be like waking up and not using tomorrow. And like, I'm not going to tell you what your higher power wants from you, but I'm pretty sure that's part of it, right? So how did you like come to this conclusion? You kind of alluded to it through the H&I work, but yeah.
So, like I said earlier, like I've learned that my higher power speaks to me more quietly than my addiction does, right? So when I'm listening to my higher power, it's usually not those thoughts that are like out of pride, ego, or feel super urgent. You know, like if I feel like the next decision I have to make just feels too urgent, or like that I'm trying to take some control over it, then that's not what my higher power wants from me, right? And I can use an example of like early on in recovery. So early on in recovery, I moved from Indiana to Chicago without knowing anybody here, without really having like a community here. But I had faith that it would work out. And I moved to Chicago, and in early recovery, I noticed that like I was trying to control everything, you know, like I was in a different sober living when I got here out in Burbank, and I had a lot of freedom at that sober living, and it was kind of leading to chaos, right? I was looking for a job, and like I wanted that job to be specifically like a sales job or something in marketing, and I just was like really trying to control that outcome, and it just wasn't working out. And it was when I kind of surrendered and started doing the next right thing for myself, that peace finally came. Like that serenity that I was looking for finally started to come. So like I had heard about a sober living, Bonaventure, that was a great place, but they offered a lot of structure. And for like 2 months, I kept missing appointments to go there to like move in, because I just did not think it was a good fit for me. But this other sober living was just like everything was chaotic there. Things were things were just not going well. And finally, like I came to the meeting here at Bonaventure, and I moved in, and like that's when my life started to unfold. And that was like something I didn't want to do. That now I'm like really happy that I kind of did.
Yeah.
You know, like that I listened to my inner self, or like that voice in my head telling me this is the next right thing for you to do. Because myself, I didn't want to give up my freedom. That's what it seemed like I was doing. Like I didn't want a curfew. I didn't want to do all these groups. I didn't want to do any of that. But obviously that was like the next right thing for me to do. And everything else that I was trying to control just wasn't working out.
Yeah.
So when I finally just gave into that, my life just like started to unfold.
Yeah, that like sometimes when you're not on the right path, you kind of see it.
Yeah.
Because you could easily twist the message from today and be like, well, I didn't desire to go there, so I'm not going to.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. And you've been a part of Free since the beginning, right? And so what drew you to Free? Because we have a few visitors here tonight.
So Free drew me because of the message of like, this is a place for spiritual refugees. And honestly, when we went to Denver and I saw what it could become and what it can be, and like the community of people that started Free, I just like really connected to the message. And I really truly do believe that Chicago has like room for that here. You know, like it is a community that is needed here for people.
Yeah, I forgot about an aspect of Free until we were here last time. Is I went to this like Friday morning meeting, and there's a coffee shop and ping pong tables, and after the meeting, at least 2/3 of the group hung out at the coffee shop and played ping pong, and I'm like, we need a space like that in Chicago, right? And we're still working on it, but it's just, it's a cool thing.
Yeah.
And so one last thing before we wrap up, if there's someone that's like struggling with something, whether it's being getting sober, or maybe the next life move, or maybe they're just overwhelmed at work, right? Like, what has worked for you to help you find that spirituality and peace in those moments?
So for me, working like a 12-step program, like obviously talking to people, because my sponsor once said something to me that was, sometimes your higher power is going to speak to you through people that love you enough to tell you the truth.
Oh, yeah.
And, you know, like sometimes just talking to people and sitting with yourself, or like really actually sitting and meditating and praying about things is just really helpful. But if you have people in your life, and if you don't, build a community around you and listen to the people that have some time under their belt, you know, like what I found is that people in recovery tend to want the best for you. And if you take people's suggestions, it's usually not going to lead you down a bad path.
Yeah. Yep. Great. Awesome.
All right, cool.
Well, thank you so much for coming up here, Louise. Let's hear it for Louise.
Thank you.
Awesome. My favorite thing about the guest storytellers, when they hit points that I didn't think about, it really rounds out the whole thing, right? So a lot of great things from Louise tonight. So now we're at our moment where we talk about generosity. So one of the most important things about a community is how we show up for each other and not just ourselves. One of the ways we do that is through generosity. You can give by scanning the QR code. There's also a little cash box back there as we work towards building that recovery hub in the north side of Chicago. Generosity helps us do that, and we stay afloat from people in this very room. And now we will transition into heartbreaks. And as I mentioned earlier, heartbreaks are just those things that might be a little bit too heavy to carry out. Sometimes it takes humility to raise our hand and say we're struggling, or we're in pain, or we're suffering. But only when we do that do we allow other people the chance to show up for us. There's always kind of a pause between heartbreaks. So after you've heard a heartbreak, if there's a moment of break before the next one, just take that opportunity to pray and send the best wishes for that person. And just raise your hand if you've got one. Hey, Donnie.
This is just me practicing some honesty and just sharing where I'm at. I relapsed Thursday night, and today's day one. It was really difficult to get here today, but I'm glad I did make it. My dad showed up to my apartment and really helped me feel a little bit more normal, and I'm just grateful for a space like this where, like, I truly know that people are just happy to see me, and that's all I got. Thanks.
Thank you, Donnie.
Hello again, everybody. My name is Rafael. I'm so grateful today, and I feel blessed today because I'm attending this wonderful group with all of you guys, all my brothers and sisters in pain and happiness and all of those beautiful things that life has to offer. I'm so grateful today because I'm alive. I'm taking certain direction, listening my higher power through the silence, through meditation, and through people like you, because God is using you, all of you guys, for me to hear a message that I need to apply in my own life. A month ago, I've been discharged from Haymarket because I had a relapse, and it was not my first relapse. So I had a conversation with the person in charge of CIP, which is a recovery unit on Haymarket, and my health and wellness counselor, and I spoke about I don't want to stop using. So I'm now exploring the harm reduction. I'm arresting my disease since a different perspective, but I'm still fighting the battle one day at a time. And thank you very much to all of you for hearing me, and I'm here, feel so blessed and so grateful to you guys because we're all together in this battle. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Raphael.
My name is Ed, and I think I've been struggling the last few days thinking about how, I live in sober living, and that's, I'm looking ahead, and I can be a bit of a homebody, and I've always liked having my own space. And just reflecting on my life, there's been so much instability, and I haven't been able to have that real longevity of building a home. And the stability and serenity that comes with that. And I just feel like that's been missing in my life. And it's hard to reflect on that. I know I can still have that, but reflecting on all the instability because of my use, because of other factors in my life that have led me to have just feel like a lot of instability. And for some reason, that just really it just breaks my heart a little bit. I guess I'm sort of just longing for a home that I feel like I've never had, but I hope I get one sometime in the future. Thanks.
Any more heartbreaks or any more things to pray for? Well, absolutely. Keith?
It's a tough one. I've been sitting here with it for a little while. I'm a recovering addict. My name is Keith Anthony. We're all integrated. Today is 14 years and 1 month. And thank you. I've been struggling with any room that says where diversity is our strength, any space that says where diversity is our strength, yet the investment in understanding what diversity and or cultural roots look like and how some struggles may present in a way that impacts the norm, we'll call it. And we have people that say they're allies but will remain silent. We have people that say that they are not racist or have no form of systemic racism, but will be judgmental to those individuals who do not look like them. And it's a struggle for me, but it's not my struggle. It's something that I offer to my higher power on a daily basis. But I can't work steps in my life and apply spiritual principles in my life and say that diversity is the strength of this program or any program where what you say, regardless of what you look like, isn't valid, and get a better understanding of why it is or where it is you are in your life and how it is you've come to that conclusion. So when I learn to be understanding of you instead of forcing you to understand me, when I become understanding of an individual, then I might be able to be a solution to them. Then I may be able to allow to speak God's voice and say, hey, this is what my experience is in this area, which may help another individual. But my silence is complacency in most instances that I see. So I struggle with that when I see that. So that's what my heartbreak is about.
Thank you, Keith.
Hi, I'm Shelly. I'm a recovering addict, alcoholic. I've been struggling lately. I feel like I've hit a plateau in my recovery, and I haven't really been coming as much as I have like in the beginning of free, and I feel it. And I'm just in a place right now where I have a lot of blessings in my life and I have a lot of peace, but there's still something missing. And I don't know what that is. And it's kind of been leading me down a path of thinking about using again. But I'm not picking up no matter what. I don't pick up. But I'm just grateful that we have this space and this community and a safe place where you can talk about what you're struggling with. So thank you.
Thank you, Shelly.
Hi, I'm Hector, alcoholic addict. Heartbreak. I think it's heartbreaking for all of us that we're here, but we're getting help. For me, if I have any advice about God, is that I don't have any control over this life. I'm just control what He's given me because it's already set in my theory. I have to let go, and I did let go, and I know He's working for me. I have a place. I'm helping other people. I have some serenity. Just surrender and to your whatever you believe, and slowly but surely, like the program, cheesy as it is, I'm proof. So thank you very much, and I'll keep coming back.
Thanks, Hector. Okay, we probably have time for about one more, if anyone has one more.
So, like with everything that's going on in my life, I'm about to encounter a big step with losing some programs like my IOP and my therapeutic services. So I'm not going to be able to attend any therapy or IOP due to losing insurance from one insurance, but I was able to come up with another insurance. So things are just going to change, and things are going to get more frustrating as every day goes on, and I just feel like, you know, I'm guided in a path that I feel like it's just going to come crushing, but I just, one day at a time, so I just got to really prepare for myself, and I just feel like that's just overwhelming and stressful with everything else that's going on and coming up, so that's all I got.
Thank you, Ryan. Thank you for sharing. Well, thank you, everybody, for making it out this evening. If you didn't get a chance or you haven't filled out a Connect card already, Andy has them, and he will hook you up with some merch. There's some coffee mugs, and he even knows where the T-shirts are, so he can find you a T-shirt if you would like one. Like I said, we're here every week, and we got plenty of chairs in storage, so invite your friends, bring them. If you've had a meaningful experience, most certainly invite whoever you would like to come as well. So we're going to close tonight with the third step prayer NA version. And so we'll get the third step prayer NA version on the screen. You will join me. Take my will and my life, guide me in my recovery, and show me how to live. Clean and serene right at the end. Thank you all, and have a great night.
It's like third step prayer, Taylor's version.